So welcome to the Inland Empire Technical Assistance Workshop for our request for applications. This is, I'm going to kind of go through the slideshow, but this is kind of our kickoff to getting a CalSOAP in the Inland Empire, which we haven't had for a long time. Everybody here okay? I think it's pretty good in here. I'll try to be loud. Okay, so bringing back CalSOAP to the Inland Empire is something we've wanted for a long time. We know there's a lot of need for CalSOAP here and for the services that are provided. We have 14 CalSOAPs around the state right now. And let me just go through this because I think this will have most of this in here. Yeah, so I'm Steve Caldwell. I'm an Assistant Deputy Director with the Student Aid Commission, and one of my areas is CalSOAP. I also have the other customer service areas within the Student Aid Commission. We have about 120 employees at Student Aid, and one of our programs is the California Student Opportunity and Access Program, which we oversee. We also have Ramona Carlos. She's our program manager. And working with us from the home office is Paula Fonashare-Tang. She is our program analyst. And we have a couple of CalSOAP people here as well. Maybe you could just introduce yourself and just say where you're from. Hi, Rika. Yeah, so they wanted to come and kind of hear, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you'd be bidding against them. So we've been here all week for a student, a college affordability summit that we've been here basically, Ramona and I have been here since Tuesday, and the project director started Wednesday with their meeting. And we've had several seminars talking about how to help students afford college. And one of the things we're working towards in CalSOAP is moving more towards financial aid literacy models. So that's kind of what we'll be looking at. It's not so much in the RFA for Inland Empire, but it will be going forward. So those are kind of our staff. Yeah, you see that. CalSOAP is a program of the California Student Aid Commission. It was created in 1978, so it's been around more than 40 years. Not that these guys have, but in our program. Our goal with CalSOAP is to increase the availability of financial aid information and college preparation information for students. And currently, the one of the goals stated in the California statute, the Education Code, is to improve students' access by raising their achievement levels. And that's one of the things that is kind of included in this RFA. And they're also supposed to reduce the duplication of services in their area. So we don't want CalSOAPs coming in and doing the same thing that other programs are doing, but they work together. They work collaboratively with other outreach programs to make sure that they're bringing something new. And then the students that CalSOAP is designed to serve are students who are first generation, low-income students, and students, now they added homeless a couple of years ago in the statutes, or from geographic regions with low college going rates or low eligibility. Core principles of CalSOAP. The RFA for the Inland Empire region is built on the same core principles envisioned by the legislature in 1978. Barriers to college education include lack of information about opportunities. I won't read the whole thing, but you can kind of see what's there. We want to help students who do come from low college going participation rate areas. The consortium style approach is very important to CalSOAP. We want strong partnerships in the areas so that everybody has a buy-in. And when we do get the applications in, there should be letters of commitment from each partner showing what they're going to bring to the table. So that was when they designed it, they really wanted to give a lot of local flexibility because students in different areas have different needs and they have different programs serving them. So we want to make sure we're filling some of those gaps. State funding has been a long-time commitment from the legislature and the governor for CalSOAP since 1978. It's grown, it's shrunk a little bit. Back in 2006, we had a cut. That's one of the things with financial aid and, well, outreach programs in general, sometimes they're the first thing to go. So we really want to strengthen the programs, the CalSOAP programs, and make sure that they're around for a long time. So the state funding, we have been getting about $7.9 million. This year we got $10 million, including the CalSOAP Inland Empire to get that started. So we did get a little bit of a boost, showing that the legislature and the governor believe in CalSOAP and they know what needs to be done. The anticipated growth in student population and of course the increased cost of college really demands something that CalSOAP offers in helping students weave their way through those financial aid applications and just financial aid literacy and knowing what loans mean, knowing what they're going to end up with. The other thing that's in the statute right now is talking about paying low-income students to give back and work with CalSOAP. So when they work with CalSOAP, there's a commitment that 30% of the funding will go to students. Right now it says tutors and or peer advisors in the statute. So we're kind of leaning more towards peer advisors going forward, but in the Inland Empire RFA and in the Los Angeles one we did before that, it does still stress tutoring. This is just a map of all of our 14 we have now. You can see some of them are kind of close together. We want to spread out a little bit, and that's why the Inland Empire is important. We want to get out into areas that aren't served so much. I know there's a lot going on in Inland Empire. Like I said, we just spent 3 days here in a conference talking about what's going on in all of our areas, but this Inland Empire area and particularly Val Verde School District and the Riverside area are really building a lot of programs, and that's where we want to supplement those and not replace them. And this information on the where they're located is all on our website. You can look at their individual pages as well. They have a lot of really good information on each CalSOAP's pages. So the consortium structure that we're looking for and we want to make sure is strong is that the governing board really is is in charge of CalSOAP. We want to make sure that they're setting policy, they're approving the budgets, and they are making decisions that will go forward with CalSOAP. The fiscal agent is there to kind of help with the money side of it. They do a lot of the hiring, and we have a lot of different fiscal agent situations. We have some schools, we have CSUs and UCs, we have some private organizations. East Bay has their own East Bay Consortium, which is their fiscal agent. And we have in San Francisco, the Japanese Youth Council that is their fiscal agent. And they basically put up the money. We work on a reimbursement process right now, but with the RFA, it's more of a grant, so we would be paying twice a year, once at the beginning, once in the middle. And for the first year, it would be at the beginning, middle, and then at the end of the year. And then the project director is hired by the governing board, has to be approved by the governing board. A lot of times the fiscal agent gets involved in that because they do a lot of the labor work for the consortium. And then you have project staff, and project staff can be professional staff. They also have a lot of the student staff under the 30%. And a lot of them hire a lot more than the 30%. They exceed that with student help as well. Expectations. So we do want strong collaborative partnerships. We really want to build some sustainability so that when CalSOAP moves into the schools, we can get some of those programs kind of ingrained in the school district and all the partners are working with it. And so if for some reason CalSOAP moved on or did something different, then hopefully those services would continue, especially if you have them for 5 years and keep building them in. So they can be a wide variety. They can be K-12 school districts, post-secondary educational agencies, of course, community-based organizations. Some are local government entities, foundations, businesses, and at least one nonprofit agency or accredited private vocational or technical school. If you have any questions, just raise your hand and stop me. I hope I'm not going too fast. We are looking at a systematic approach to delivering services, including tutoring, counseling, college preparation, free application for federal student aid, the California DREAM Act application, which we want to make sure anytime we talk about the FAFSA, we talk about the DREAM Act as well. We're looking at completion rates through our Race to Submit, which is on our CSAC website as well. And college visits. We talked to a lot of the CalSOAP project directors, and a lot of other people who do college visits, and they just really find that when the kids get on campus, they get excited about school and they get excited about going to college. It's more of a reality to them when they actually see it. So again, we want to avoid duplication. The law specifically says we should avoid duplication of services provided by other programs, and you want to work together with those programs. Committed partners will provide matching funds. There is a requirement in the law that you have to meet at least, the law right now says at least 1-to-1 match, but the goal of CalSOAP should be to get to 1.5 to 1 private funding versus the state funding. We may change that in the future, but right now the RFA calls for a 1.5 to 1 match. And that doesn't all have to be cash. A lot of it's in kind. Some of our CalSOAPs have all in kind. Could be office space, could be just time that they commit. There's a lot of ways to work that and make sure that we're meeting that match. But the legislature really wanted to get that 1 to 1.5 match to make the most of the 7.9 million and now the 10 million that they're funding. We want to create and sustain a college-going culture. That's what CalSOAP's all about, building students to be ready to go to college and have that college-going culture. We want to encourage parent participation and involvement. We find that if you want the students, a lot of times you got to get to the parents. And we have a lot of Cash for College workshops where we'll see the kids are there by themselves because the parents really don't want to get involved and give that information. A lot of first-time college goers and their family. So a lot of times their parents aren't on board. That's something we want to change. We want a model where you're working with the parents and getting to know them and helping them understand financial aid literacy as well. Data collection is becoming more and more important. This governor and legislature are really looking for effective data. This is something that the commission has struggled with a little bit with the CalSOAP projects because they're all, as I said, they're all locally tailored. So a lot of times that means that the data is kind of hard to get the same. We've worked on a couple databases. We're working on something new where we're gonna help do that data match and work with the CDE, the California Department of Education data that we can get, as well as the National Student Clearinghouse. So we're working on some new things that I think will make that data collection easier. But in this RFA, we do have requirements that are built into the RFA that we'll be looking for in the first year. And because those data requirements are in there, it doesn't mean that you're going to meet and exceed all of those in the first year. We want to see progress and we want to see how that's going. We want to be able to share that with the legislature. So again, we can correct the program or keep the program going. Got something on there that won't go away. So go on. There. So again, we got $2.1 million this year to begin a project in the Inland Empire. Every time we put out an RFA, we have to add language that says it depends on the appropriation in the state budget because we don't know from year to year how much we're going to get. We hope it'll be more next year. We don't know for sure. Still getting that. Please move this window away. It's fading. So the funding right now for this project is available on a one-time basis, but they should fund it again next year. We've had semi-commitment, but again, the government is talking about a possible recession coming up. If we have the Inland Empire get started and the funding doesn't come to fruition, we still would look at the total funding and the commission would decide how to divide that out. So I'm pretty sure that if we get an Inland Empire going, they would commit to sending some funding that way. The applicants, a lot of people have asked this question in emails. Do you need to apply for the full $2.1 million? No, you don't. You can apply for any amount up to that, and that $2.1 million is for it's for this year, and so 2019-20 budget year, which ends June 30th. So that'll be mostly for planning, and then for the second year, it would be a full year of services. And again, you're kind of ramping up still. I know it's not a lot of time this year, but we got the money kind of late in the process through the budget, so we wanted to make sure we get it out. So we've been working with that, and we know you can get it going, and that's what we're looking for. In 2021, and I think this is probably in another slide, we're talking about kind of revamping the CalSOAP program and the request for application for beginning in 2021. And we are looking at doing a statewide application process where everybody would apply for the grants. And we're looking at some different things. That was one of our discussions on Wednesday, was looking at, trying to get rid of that box still, looking at changing the statute a little bit and hopefully giving a little more flexibility to the project going forward from 21, 22. So that would be, that's our goal, and we want to try to update, refresh statute, because a lot of it is from 1978. There's been a few additions, but there's words in there that are real giveaways that it was a long time ago. It's still there. Please remove this window. I'd like to. So let's see. The applicants don't need to serve the entire Inland Empire, but must identify the specific target schools within your application. We will, did you say? I think I did. Yeah. It could be. Okay. It could be, but they could see it, right? You can still see everything. Yeah, so you don't have to apply for the full Inland Empire area. We know it's a huge area, and what our hope is that we'll get several good applications, and then we can allocate those out. If you don't ask for the full 2.1 million, that's fine, because you got to remember there's a matching requirement. So if you ask for 2 million, you've got to match it with another 1.5 to that. So it would be great if we could cover the whole Inland Empire with a couple of applications and get people going. 2.1 million is quite a bit. Our highest funded CalSOAP right now is about $1 million. San Diego and then East Bay, and they both kind of share areas. They both get about $1 million a year from the state, and then they have to match that accordingly. So just remember that when you apply, you've got to make sure you have those matching dollars lined up. So, and that's where we're talking about a results-oriented grant rather than an annual allocation. And right now, with the projects that are not under the RFA, we work on a reimbursement basis. But again, we will be working on a grant payment basis with the new ones. So in the future, probably in the spring, we'll be introducing a new RFA to begin in 2021, and that's where we'll be looking at the full grant process. That thing's really bothering me, but that's okay. Grantees will receive payments based on a set schedule. So we talked about 50% of the annual amount will be paid at the beginning, and then 50% at the end of the fiscal year, and then again if we go on. With this grant, I said it was for 1920 and 2021. If for some reason the commission decides to put off the full statewide process again, we do have the ability to extend this grant for another year, which is what we did with Los Angeles this year. 6-month and year-end reports will be required and submitted to the commission. And we do have the templates laid out for those. If CalSOAP teams, I'm going to read this one, are offering support, including instructional support to many students on Saturday. Well, this is just one of the suggestions that our commission chair had. The consortium could partner with the school districts. A lot of times they can actually make money, get ADA money from the districts by having Saturday school or Saturday information sessions. So that's something that she was a big component of, is getting them to pay for food. And we heard several times during our meetings this week that if you want students and parents to come, bring food. We had a workshop on last night, on Thursday night, over here at a high school. What was the high school called, Ramona? La Quinta High School. Beautiful high school. And they were having a workshop, and I think they were expecting around 30 people at the workshop. But somebody got pizza, and they also offered some $200 scholarships. It doesn't take a lot, but they offered some $200 scholarships that would be randomly drawn. We had 180 people at the workshop, and it was, they had a bunch of different rooms going. They had one room just for Spanish. So those are some of the incentives that really work, getting people there. Still won't go away. Yes. The CalSOAP money for our state money is not to be spent on food, and I think that's outlined in the RFA, or swag, you know, what we call swag t-shirts and goodies and things, but your matching funds can do that. Or if you get donations from other people. Our commission chair, who is with the Riverside County Office of Education, bought the pizza for them last night. A lot of people showed up for pizza or other food. Somebody mentioned bagel wrap dogs, hot dogs. So anything helps. Okay, someday that will go away. Components of the RFA. The RFA provides for the purpose, background, assumptions, and statutory requirements that drive CalSOAP. We want to make sure that the applications are in line with those basic tenets of the legislation and the RFA. Outlines basic information including timelines, funding levels, funding distribution, eligibility requirements, the general responsibilities, and there's the non-allowable expenditure. So there are some, and there are some rules around the state general fund. CalSOAP used to be funded with different grants, so it didn't get quite as much attention as it does now in the general fund, because you know, anytime you're in the general fund, you're competing with healthcare and prisons and everything else, transportation. So it gets a little more attention now that it's part of the general fund. So the overview, yeah, we can kind of go through this. It's just the purpose, background, and assumptions. Program description outlines the basic information. Program activities and services describes what CalSOAP projects must do, can do, and the requirements for matching funds. So there's some things in the legislature, in the legislation, that CalSOAP must do, and there's others that it can do. For instance, helping community college transfer students or community college students transfer to four-year institutions is something that the CalSOAPs may do. Accountability is something, again, the data requirements are kind of changing, and that's what we're working with now with our commission. We want to do something where we exchange information with the CalSOAPs and get the student identification numbers and name, date, birthday, all the information we can, and we can compare it to a couple things, well, three things. One is our FAFSA completion. So we get records for every student that completes a FAFSA or a California DREAM Act application, and we can look at students who are actually successful in that process. We want to start comparing more to the Department of Education's information that they have out on their website. And then we want to look at the National Student Clearinghouse so we can actually see concrete information on student success and persistence in college. And college doesn't just mean a 2 or 4 year program. It could mean a vocational or technological program that could be shorter. And we want to make sure that CalSOAP is promoting all pathways to higher education or education beyond high school. So the application process, again, just kind of outlines the process and what you need to have in your application. Please pay close attention to that. We got some in the last round that we got a good number of applications, but some of them just weren't written the way that we asked them to be written. We learned some things from that too, to be a little more specific on what we needed. But just take a look at that and make sure that you understand everything that needs to go into it. And if you have any questions, you can always email the CalSOAP RFA box, and we will send you information on that. And then we'll share the questions and responses that come in on our website, so everybody has the same information. You may have some of the same questions. Application components and formatting requirements are on page 29 of the RFA. General assurances is something that, of course, our lawyer wants us to put in there. So that's all kind of the legal requirements of CalSOAP. And then just summary, still there. Inland Empire is designed to provide grant funding to the most qualified consortium in the areas with the greatest need. And so we'll be looking at need numbers as well as the schools that are being served. We want to create a healthy competition for funds based on the best services and the best use of grant funds. If we get more applications than we can award, and if we have to turn some down, then it'll just give us more, if we have good applications, it'll give us more ammunition to go to the legislature and say, look how much interest there is here, and maybe we can get some more money. So that's what we're hoping. We also want to create a performance-based approach for CalSOAP services. Again, a little bit tough just because of all the different services they're providing, but I think with the data that we're going to be working on, the Student Aid Commission just hired a new director of data policy and research, and he's going to be working with us on these data matches, which will be great. Because right now in CalSOAP, we have a very small staff, and we do everything we can to work with the data, but it'll be great to have somebody else helping us with that. And then, of course, we want to create a college-going culture through committed partnerships. Make sure that we're doing that. Innovative and flexible programs. We know that sometimes there's a lot of geography between schools and it takes a lot to get there. We'd love to see some new proposals that would incorporate some more technological solutions and how you can get out to the other schools. We had some in the last round, which were very helpful. Of course, we want to see parent involvement as well in the applications. We want that regional infrastructure, and we want to build on strong partnerships. With CalSOAP being around so long, we have a lot of really good, strong partnerships in our areas. It's going to be important to see Inland Empire build that same strong partnership so that everybody is bringing their share to the CalSOAP project or to the CalSOAP consortium. And then we want to ensure that partners promote data sharing and resources with the end goal to help prepare students for successful access and have financial means to pay for college. We know that, and pay for and succeed in college, because we know it takes a lot. College costs just keep going up, and we want to make sure students are ready for that, and families. The due date, this is very important, is Friday, December 6th by 3 p.m. We cannot accept late applications, so make sure you get them in there on time. The requirements are there to submit 5 printed copies, and then make sure you put my name on it in California Student Aid Commission. Sometimes we have things delivered to the place next door if you don't put our full name on it, so make sure you put that on there. And then an electronic copy of the grant as well, and that's the email for CalSOAP RFA as well. I think we have that at the end too. We are available at work 8:30 to 4:30 if you need help. If you have technical questions about the RFA, feel free to email us. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And again, we'll share those questions on our website so that if other people have the same questions, they'll be able to see those responses. RFA has to be an open process so that everybody has the same access to the information. And then again, please direct all questions to calsoaprfa@csac.ca.gov. And we do have a CalSOAP RFA for Inland Empire page on our website. It's up already, right? Ready to go. So you can go on there and get more information as well. Oh yeah, there's the website right there. And that's the slideshow. So now, questions that you have, we'd love to be able to answer those. If we don't have an answer, we will get it for you. Uh-huh. Oh, yes. Yes. No, in fact, You know, one example of that is when we were looking at the Los Angeles Unified School District put in an application, but they were also partners in all of the other three. So that's fine, yeah. And we encourage people to work together and pool resources. Yeah, no, that wouldn't hurt you. We'd just look at both of them and we would apply the scoring criteria and see how they do. Right now, yes. Yeah. Actually, no. So the way this worked this year, the budget process was a little bit different than it's been in the past, or at least with my experience. The governor put several things in the budget that had been considered in legislation during the year. Usually when something goes into legislation, we get it and it becomes effective. The law becomes effective January 1st, and then we have some time built in that we negotiate. This year, these programs began on July 1st. So the 1920 is, they budgeted $2.1 million for 1920. So what we're doing is we have to, this gets a little tricky with the budget language, but we can use that 1920 funding for 2 years. So that's the $2.1 million is for 1920 and 2021. Right, so your budget in your RFA should reflect the rest of this year and then next year. Yes. Yes, yeah, total of $2.1 million. Did you want to add anything to what I went through with what CalSOAP does? I need to look at the chat and see if anybody's asking questions. Okay. Yes. They vary. You know, you can, whatever you want to apply for, you just have to be able to show the need in those schools. So you don't want to get overzealous and say we can serve everybody in the Inland Empire, because you really can't. So you have to show in the application what you'd be able to fund with the money that you're asking for. And it's not, there's not a penalty for serving a smaller area if you're going to be serving that area with the correct services and the things that we're asking for in the RFA. Yes.
And if we start looking at a particular district,
Right. Well, you don't need to serve the whole district. You would show the schools that you want to serve within that district. CalSOAP doesn't. Yes, I can understand that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Monica? Ah. Right. And we don't expect to serve the whole district. What we do want to look at eventually is the data kind of compared to the whole district so that we can see how CalSOAP students are affected by the services that are provided and hopefully be able to offer some data to help fine tune those services and say, you know, work with them to say, here's some data that looks like this is working, but maybe this isn't working as well. Mm-hmm. We do, and the data that you're getting right now, it's going to be kind of difficult in 1 year to really build anything that really shows any kind of trends of service. So what we're really moving towards is that our grants should be 5 years once we do the statewide RFA. So we'll be looking at what happened between the first year and the 5th year and building that. When we were talking to our director of data and research and policy, talked about 4 to 6 years to really see those changes. So that's what we'd be looking at in the 5-year process. For this one, though, we want the data. We want you to work with your school districts to show us kind of where you are and what you're doing to address those things. Right, and basically to answer to the reports, because we have to have something, you know, something to show our commission and to show the legislature. We've been talking to them, and in fact, they were at the conference and came and talked to us. They have a limited number of schools right now that they work with and areas that they work with, but they're looking to expand, so that might be part of it. More, I think we're looking at gathering that data from the CalSOAPs on the individual students and then working with that data ourselves to kind of compare the other. Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. You could do either way. If you can show a need in your school and in your area, and you can justify, you know, the money that you're asking for, we'll consider it. It might be good in your case, though, to work with a partner and kind of help someone else expand their application. That would be something I would definitely think about. But yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you know, if you say that the project director had to be hired
The project director has to be approved, selected, yes, by the governing board. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting concept. The governing board should be overseeing the consortia. So the project director really reports to the governing board in this structure. In terms of the actual, the hiring, the paperwork and all of that, and the benefits and things, those generally come from the fiscal agent. But the governing board has to vote and make sure that they approve the project director when they're hiring. Yes.
In certain structures that may implement problems.
We have had a couple of those. We've had things come up. Have you had those issues with the union?
And you're hiring inside the district, that makes the person potentially leaving your team.
So they're employees of the fiscal agent, but the governing board still would direct the policy. Yeah. Right. Right. Uh-huh. Right.
But it's actually based on operations. Who do they actually report to? Governing board, or is it the fiscal agent? Where they're employed?
Yeah.
You heard me say in the board.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yours is through a school, right, Imelda? So. Your fiscal agent. And your fiscal agent is the. Well, there's the governing board and then there's the fiscal agent. Right. Yeah. And in this case, in the RFA, the fiscal agent is the lead agency, the way it's identified in the RFA. Yes. Yes. Mhm. Oh, well, in this case, with the timing that we have, you want to get that project director hired before the end of this fiscal year if possible, because we'll get, the RFA is due December 6th. We're going to present the selected participant or selected winners to the commission in March, right, Ramona? Okay, I'm not looking at the timeline. In March, and then once that happens, then we'll send out the contracts. You can get started on the planning and kind of ramping up. So that's when you'd want to get your project director hired so they could really begin services beginning July 1st. And that's quick. I know it's quick. But hopefully in the RFA process, you'll already have everybody on board in terms of partners. And that's what happened before with LA. They ramped up pretty quickly. No, that's okay. Mm-hmm. There's a letter of commitment, but also there's some pages in here where you fill in the partnership numbers. But yeah, they were just letters of commitment from each partner. Right. No, they were just letters. Yeah. It's a letter of commitment. Yeah. Yes, definitely with signatures. Yeah, and you just want to make sure they're on board. But in the in Form C, there's budget, and then there's partnership forms where you just show how much you're getting from each partners. But the letters are very important. We got to make sure we have the letters in there saying that they're committed. And again, that can be in-kind funding or cash funding. No, I didn't see any. That's what I was looking for. No, just mine and Paula's. Paula told me not to forget to mute the webinar participants. And then I just asked people to type comments in. There's only one participant on the webinar besides us. Others? We'll be here. We'll stay. If we end the session, we'll stay around if you have other questions. And then I guess I think that's fine. Yeah, we had, thank you for coming. We had a good turnout, and we're happy to have a lot of interest in the RFA. So we hope we'll get some great applications and we can really establish something. And then thank you, project directors, for helping. Appreciate that. Yes. Right. Yeah. So we're looking at in the spring, doing the one for the 2020 or 21-22 fiscal year. And that would be the statewide, it's changing a little bit in our discussions about how we're going to do it, but definitely for Inland Empire, we would have, definitely as long as the budget gives us the money, we'll have another competition after that year.